Bartail has been one of the persons who's watched all the shows. I talk to him on a regular basis in the EverQuest Next IRC channel.
What we saw with, Kunark for EQ2, you did those 400 quests, you did all the content, and at the end of it, the world wasn't changed.
Yeah, I'm Phantom X. I do social media and write articles for EQ Nexus.
For the Fall of Bastion, there was a very definite, okay, this is where your story is going to fit into the world.
Listen, fluffy looking bear, thank you. Listen, I went and I killed a dragon, and then 2 drops of whiskey hit my face, and I willed this manly beard into cow was raising, yes!
Hello and welcome to EverCast, episode number 68, which we have titled Coast to Coast. I am one of your regular weekly normal hosts, Tanlin. With me are our 3 other regular normal weekly hosts, Kylas, Flatus, and Lucy.
Hello.
Hello.
Buenos dias.
Cast is it's a gaming podcast where we talk about the latest fun and interesting things that we are finding in the world of online video games. We like to try and bring the conversation back to EverQuest Next and or Landmark by Daybreak Games whenever we can, as we are all eagerly anticipating that game coming out. In the meantime, we're just talking about all the other games that are out there that we are playing. One other small little thing is I noticed that we were having a little bit of bandwidth problems on my internet, on like my resource monitor thing here, but it seems to have cleared up. So I apologize that the intro video probably skipped crazy. Hi guys, what's up? How have you been?
Anybody?
Crickets.
Terrible. Apparently, everyone's
Lucy,
terrible.
did you have that crickets queued up? Did I hear crickets?
I just said crickets.
I swear I heard crickets.
It was totally psychosomatic or whatever, because I swear. Well, we both. It was a mass hallucination. We both did hallucination.
I don't even have crickets on this thing.
I
don't. I just don't have it.
As if the title of the Twitch page didn't update, the episode title is Sword Coast to Coast. As we tweeted out, as we previewed on our show like 2 weeks ago and last week. This show we're dedicating to a video game that is coming out September 29th called Sword Coast Legends. It is based on the world of Forgotten Realms along the Sword Coast. But before we get there are some ECast news, things that we should get to before I forget. The first thing is as we said, we still keep up with what EverQuest Next and Landmark are doing. Forgot to mention last week that the Elf build winners have been announced, and the photo album is available on the EverQuest Next Facebook group. It's an album. I'm going to link there.
Don't read the comments.
Don't read the. I never read the comments. I just look at the pretty pictures. And again, the with each passing, competition that the Landmark builders have, they get better and better. They've mastered that tool in building. And then along with the Landmark, there was a little bit of additional information given to us about Halas and the Halasians, kind of like their cultural background. So we did ask for more of that type of information. This is what they gave us, so pass it along to you. So yeah, last week this came up. somebody had a question about adding the tier set bonuses to LFR tier set pieces for World of Warcraft. And the question was, did we think that they would add those tier set bonuses to the gear? And Vladis and I were like, no, we're pretty much, they don't want raiders to have to raid in LFR. And then like over this last week, I was playing around in Warcraft and I realized, wait a minute. The LFR gear does have the tier set bonuses. It was only the first raid tier in the Warlords of Draenor expansion that did not have the set bonuses. But all of the tier sets after that have been available in LFR. So a little correction of something that we misspoke about last week. And then finally, getting to our schedule. Again, this week we're talking Sword Coast Legend. Next week we are talking Project Gorgon on the last day of their Kickstarter. That's Vladis is the one that first pointed out this game to us, and so him and I are definitely really looking forward to talking about Project Gorgon. Full disclaimer: I deleted my cow character. You can no longer milk me.
Oh, don't worry, that cow's still there. We will figure it out.
I have actually downloaded because you can play it for free right now. I have downloaded it and played a bit, so.
Yeah, and going back to my disclaimer about like I never back Kickstarter games. This is again one I will not back on Kickstarter for all of the reasons why I've never backed Kickstarter since I made that rule about myself. However, I will say that when you're looking at like examining the risk involved, this is a pretty low risk Kickstarter to back because the game is out. You can play for free right now.
Yep.
And speaking of free to play right now, WildStar will be going free to play later this year. They set their goal in the autumn, which is only a couple months away. So we will be talking about that game prior to its free to play launch. Also wanted to throw out there, there is another podcast that live streams on Twitch called Theory Forge. They are on Friday afternoons, and Omid Dariani, who is the director of community and social for NCSoft, which is the publisher for WildStar, will be on Theory Forge this upcoming Friday. I got all of that out there.
One real quick thing. If you are interested in playing WildStar, the beta is right now. You can sign up for beta for WildStar if you want to try it out. So.
Yeah, and last week you were saying that like if you can find a copy of the game for like $10, and that comes with 30 days of game. Yeah, so It might be, you got $10 to throw down. You could probably get a lot of the stuff that they're going to give to the founders or to the people who've been playing since launch, but you really only played it for a couple days because you bought the online, retail version or whatever.
Yep.
All right. So do we have anything else for ECast news? Anything you guys been up to? Want to get out, talk about?
The entire show is about it.
Yeah, right. I mean, normally introductions and like ECast news, like they go on for quite a while. I kind of sped talk through that because maybe I'm just a little bit excited to talk about this Sword Coast Legends myself too. All right,
I'm good.
Yeah, Beholders. Yeah. I think that it was awesome that I sat down to watch the live stream that they did, the Sword Coast Legends people did, and the first thing they talked about was wanting to show their Beholder, and I'm like, oh hey Kylest, check it out, it's a Beholder. I do. Okay, so before we launch into the conversation, we're going to play their 3 trailer from this year so that you get a little glimpse of what the game is about if you haven't already checked it out. So, Flatus, what is it? Hold on to your butts. We'll be back. It'll be like 3 minutes. Kylus, you going to be okay?
I didn't do it.
All right, so here it comes.
Sword Coast Legends is an epic single and multiplayer role-playing game set in Dungeons & Dragons' Forgotten Realms. In the extensive story campaign, you awaken from a horrific nightmare to find your guild, the Order of the Burning Dawn, all but destroyed. Pursued by assassins, you must escape north along the Sword Coast in search of the truth. Begin by creating your own character, choosing from 5 distinct races and 6 iconic classes. With multiple customization options within each class, you can create the perfect character to fit your desired playstyle. Along the way, you may choose to ally with powerful companions, such as Jarhild Stoneforge, a fearless fighter who is tough as steel. Ilidia Maethelin, a powerful healer with a tortured past. Laratha Gulgrim, a rogue with a wit as sharp as his blades. Or Homit Shaw, the necromancer with a heart of gold. After creating your character, you can embark on your journey. You can invite up to 3 friends to join the story as a co-op adventure, with each player using their own customized character. Although you can customize your character with treasures and loot, you will have to rely on your party to survive the dangers of the Sword Coast. Combat is in real time, but you can pause to queue up attacks and spells if you desire a tactical edge. In the new Dungeon Master mode, one player takes on the role of the Dungeon Master, able to control aspects of the game in a randomly generated dungeon or a custom campaign of their own creation. 4 adventurers may test their mettle against the DM, and both sides are rewarded for skillful play. During boss encounters, Dungeon Masters can even take direct control of the enemy, adding an extra layer of challenge. So come now, adventurer. Ready your armor, gather your weapons, and journey to the Sword Coast.
All right, well, there was Sword Coast Legends.
Legendary.
D&D song, but I'm not going to.
DM says
no. When the show is over, look up Stephen Lynch, D&D.
Stephen Lynch, David D&D. I'll write that down.
Just make sure your volume isn't set to like all the way up because it gets loud.
Oh, does it? Okay. Is it
My
the magic?
husband does not know this song.
Me? I love that song. Oh no, he doesn't know. I know it. He doesn't know.
Flatus, are you now all of a sudden her husband?
I thought she said Flatus doesn't know that song, but then I realized she said my husband doesn't know the song. I'm currently not here at the moment.
Right, well,
didn't we establish podcast husband, at home husband?
Did we? Because
It's true. People have in the past on numerous occasions thought I was married to Gladys and not to Talon. The podcast husband.
Okay.
The actual, like, legal husband.
So, Lucy, you want to take it away? You want to talk? Introduce. I'm trying to put grab control of the bus, grab that steering wheel, and get it back on course.
So, Sword Coast Legends, as you guys saw in the trailer, it's going to be a sort of solo party-building fantasy adventure game a la Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights, which are personally my 2 favorite games. Well, not like the most favorite ever, but they're really good. And I think Neverwinter Nights is literally the only game I have ever finished in my entire life. Ever.
Really?
Yes.
I can go back to being the original Final Fantasy game when it came out on the NES. Did you play that all the way through?
Oh, I may have beat Dragon Warrior.
See, I had the original Adventures of Zelda, but I never beat it. You know, I was just...
I think maybe, or I watched a friend do it.
I totally cheesed Final Fantasy though, because the most powerful group I could put together was 4 fighters, and 3 of them had an ability, an item that you could find that would heal everybody in the party, and then one he just had the best sword that I could find. So it was basically the one guy attacked everybody, and the other 3 healed. Yeah, it was great. Easing the mechanics. So Sword Ghost Legends, yeah.
Yes,
RPG.
so it's a solo like party building type fantasy adventure game. So if you liked Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Neverwinter Nights, you will probably like this game. Obviously, I'm not important enough to have gotten a demo, so it's not like I've played it. But as you know, they've basically said, I think it was Dan Tudge in an interview by MMORPG said that it was basically like very, very much like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. So if you like those games, you might want to check out Sword Coast Legends. The other cool thing about Sword Coast Legends is that during your solo game, you can actually invite your friends to play with you, and you guys can tackle the content together. So it becomes not just a solo game, but also a co-op game, and which I'm guessing is going to be the focus of this entire show. It also has a dungeon master mode where, yes, one person can be the dungeon master, and you get all kinds of tools to build your own basic, not just adventures, but campaigns along the Sword Coast. And you can invite, I think it's up to 4 other people to play, and you can DM the map real time, which is huge because I'm not sure any other game has had that before, where you can literally DM real time.
It is definitely an incredible extension of the role-playing game experience, because that's where, like, we started out on tabletop playing RPGs where as long as you and your DM was agreeing on what was going on, that's what was going on in this fantasy world that you had created, right? And then we get into the video games, and video games have always been trying to recreate that free-flowing experience with you and your friends, just trying to, what do you want to do? You can do this and you can do this, and that was like it's kind of the limits of the technology at the time. Like, it became like EverQuest was really, really sandboxed. Warcraft much less so. And all other MMOs have tried to incorporate more of those elements of being that, like, well, what do you want to do? Just do what you think is fun with your friends, and hopefully there is a place in our world, in our game, for you to do that.
So if you guys haven't checked out their stuff, they're on Twitch, and you should follow them on Twitch because then you'll know when they go live. And I think it's just Sword Coast. It's like, I think that's the name of their channel. And if you go to YouTube and type in Sword Coast Legends, you'll find a bunch of stuff. Watch all that stuff. It's all good stuff.
Yep, and they said that they just got back from Gamescom in Europe, and they're launching the game next month. So they said that they're going to pick up their live stream schedule, so that, like, right now is the perfect opportunity to, like, sit down and watch them talk about the game and get your questions answered, because part of their every single live stream that I've seen them do so far has included a little bit of Q&A, like either answering at the end, or they see a question scroll by and they're like, oh, hey, we can answer that.
As I've been watching the YouTube videos and stuff, I've been writing down questions like, can I do this? Can I do this? What about this? Is there a feature for this? And every once in a while, they'll actually answer them. One that just got answered on the most recent Twitch stream that they had was, yes, you can use monsters as NPCs. So you don't actually have to choose, like, from the monster tab and have them all be hostile. You can toggle that ability. So opens up the floor for campaign ideas even more so.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is that I would like to see more video games become more of the whole, more than just, it's instead of phrasing it this way, I'll phrase it the other way. I want them more to be just combat simulators. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons with my dad, and then I started DMing for my friends. And unfortunately, like, some of my friends really wanted just to play the combat part of it, and I wanted to be more of the storyteller type part of it. And from that, I moved away from like a D&D, which is very much all about the combat and the combat system and, you know, spells that do damage. And I moved into the storyteller based games like World of Darkness, where the combat is part of the game, but it's really more about delivering a story or a narrative, or, you know, talking about your character. What is this person, you know, the character that you're playing, what are they doing? So the quests and the subquests that they were showing on that you could add allow you to develop that whole, like, it doesn't have to, this game, like, it you watch the trailer, it's got the full-fledged combat simulator experience, but it also looks like they're adding in a lot of those quest dialogue options that expand the role-playing element of it.
Yeah, I think that the ability to not just create a quest, complete a quest, but actually be able to create a quest, update the quest with, like, you achieved part of the quest, but you haven't quite finished it all, or branching quests where you can like be like, okay, let's say you've found the item that your employer was looking for, however half of it's missing. Like, now you have to go find out who broke it. And, like, I'm obviously coming up with this on the fly, and it's not a very, like, fleshed out idea, but you can change the course of you can sort of trick your players. Oh, you thought it was going to be like a retrieve the item quest. Well, guess what? It's not. So I like that. You can twist it. You can change it. You can, yeah.
Right, and we were talking about the Beholder that they showed in the demo, and we were talking about it before the show, and I just thought that, you know, the Beholder is a smart creature, right? Like, it has its own survival, you know, instinct that's in there. And we were talking, you know, how about if you DPS down the Beholder down to like 20% health, and then the DM pauses and the quest updates and be like, well, okay, the Beholder has this narrative and says, stop, I'll give you what you want. Or something like that. So, and then the players have the option of, like, well, we can continue and kill the Beholder, or we can do the thing that the Beholder is asking us to do and get a different quest. So basically you have that, you know, one party might be a good characters and it's an evil creature, kill it. And we might not have another party that's like, wait a minute, the Beholder is a powerful creature that could be a great ally to have. So why don't we do him a favor, let him live, you know? And so you have that where the quest arcs into different storylines, which would be, you know, an incredible experience to be able to give to your friends.
I think the live DM will allow that access of on-the-fly gameplay changes that you just can't get with something like Diablo or even can't even think of the name of it. That other game that's free to play with its isometric and combat-y. I'll think of it in a second.
Oh, it's I know which one you're talking about. It's oh my god.
I'm looking for it right now. I'm looking for it right now.
You're Googling it. I know that I know two people that I followed on Twitter that play it regularly.
Path of Exile. Ha!
Yeah, there you go. Path of Exile.
I also like going along the whole Beholder thing and how they're intelligent. I like the fact that as a DM, you can have a recurring villain that you then have to force the party to work with because you're a dick like that.
Oh, I will so be that dick.
Right. So I only caught this on the first time watching the video. Or watching the live stream. Lucy, DMs get loot?
DMs get loot. They get loot. So as your party's going through, when they kill a monster, you can get like this little, like as the DM, you can get like this little sparkly thing pop up above the monster. And I haven't actually like stopped and like looked at what you get, but I think they're like creature spawns that you can like surprise the players with, and I'm not exactly sure how they work. I think there was like one brief moment in one of the videos where they might have used it, but I've watched hours of YouTube videos, so it's hard for me to actually pinpoint where it happened. But it feels like one of those things where like it might give you something different to use on the players, like because when you roll your dungeon, you pick 2 different creature types that you want to spawn there, and granted that's for a quick like randomized campaign. I think it's easier for the DM to do that. I think you can add in whatever creatures you want, but it might give you something like outside of those set creature like templates, like say you pick drow and like goblins if you're underground or something, like the drow are using the goblins as minions or something. You can get something like skeletons and you can just randomly spawn them on your players, but I'm honestly not sure how the loot works.
Well, one of the items that they got was a bulwark, and I think that what they were saying is that you can, like, when you're killing off your players, right? Like you've created a campaign that is too difficult for them, you can toss them a little bit of help. You know, like the DMs do occasionally. Like you don't want to kill all your party, because your players are not going to have a good time, and then they don't come back. And so you can nudge them a little, like, okay, this will help save you a little bit. So that looked like one of the items. I think they called it a bulwark that you could cast on the party. That I don't remember. Well, they didn't say exactly what it did, but increase their health, add their armor class, protect them from magic types, bulwark effects.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool that they were basically creating a gamification system for the DM. One of them was that the DM itself, not himself, the DM, whoever's playing the DM, gets loot too. Like, what's this? This is cool. And then the other mechanic that they had put in to gamify the DM experience was a threat gauge for the DM. And from what I saw, what happened is that when the DM created so many obstacles or encounters for the players that the players were getting overwhelmed, their threat meter went all the way over to one side, and then they couldn't use any of their DM abilities anymore. Like the game was basically telling the DM was like, whoa, back off here. Your players are getting overwhelmed by the stuff that you're throwing at them.
So it has a built-in dude, DM, you're a dick.
It's the DM's
It also has
meter.
It also has a built-in meter that's like, dude, step it up. Come on, let's throw something else at the party.
Right. And remember, yeah, that DM meter, that threat meter slides 2 ways, right? So it's basically, you don't want to be on the extremes. You want to be right in the middle.
It's a tool to make you not a tool.
I don't know, that last Twitch stream, they were pummeling those players like badly. They used them like 5 times.
And that was one of the things that I noticed as a DM is that the players, their QA that were playing as the players going through there had a lot of self-res type effects, and like I was like, if I was a DM, no way, you're dead. You lay on the ground. You make your friends rescue you.
Self-rescuing.
Yeah, everyone.
And remember, you have to have threat in order to possess your monsters and actually be able to control them, which is a really cool feature that you want to like probably save for your bosses. But I can't wait. I'm literally like, give me the game.
Now, did you ever play Lord of the Rings Online?
For like a minute.
My friends, when they left and started playing Lord of the Rings Online, I forget, like it was level 2 or something like that, is when you unlock the Freeps and the Creeps where you could play as monsters. or you could play as the free people. And they said that like they lost, so they were like adventuring through the land of Middle Earth, and then they decided that they could be creatures and attack players, and that's what they did for all of their time playing the game.
I've mentioned on a few occasions some other friends are playing.
Pardon?
Nothing.
I don't think you. Well, maybe you mentioned.
Why? Why would they want to be creatures and attack players all the time? Why would they do that?
Because it was fun.
See?
It's because I don't think that Lord of the Rings Online doesn't necessarily have a built-in PvP feature, so that was the closest that they could have. And there's a lot of fun with that. Like, you die a lot as a creep too, so it goes back and forth. You don't always have to be like the hero. You could like the villain that's constantly getting beat back.
I sure do like losing. It shows humility. If anything, you're a better person for it at the end of it.
So one of the other thoughts that we had was, and we didn't have a clear understanding whether or not the game itself will have a voice over internet built into it, or if you will have to get like a third-party VoIP. But I feel as a DM or even as a player that that's like an absolute requirement to play like a game like this. Like I want the DM to be able to like narrate when they feel like they need to narrate, and I understand that part of it is that you can build the campaigns and write it all out in advance and maybe have the game take care of that, some of that for you, but like I always felt like the DM should have the power to narrate on the spot, create dialogue on the spot, and it's really hard to do unless you're in like constant vocal communication with them. And I think that would be like something that would be cool to have built into the game.
I think it is going to be built in the game. They've said a couple times about how they want DMs to DM real time, and it wouldn't make sense for them to want DMs to do that and then not give them the tool to do that within their own game.
Right. It wouldn't, like, if the DM couldn't like necessarily explain what was going on, and they were like, okay, I'm gonna have to pause the game right here, let me type it out, and then the monster says this, and then the monster says that, and then I was like, okay, hit play, and the players are like, the game paused. What's going on? What's going on?
That actually is one of my questions. Can you pause the players? Because I don't think you can. I think you have to like lock doors and set traps to slow them down to give yourself time to work. I don't think you have an actual pause button.
No, you see, when I DM, the DM is God. The DM wants to stop time, they stop time. Bam, done.
Well, I know, but like, if your players can keep going and they ignore you.
Exactly.
I would guess you could set up gates and stuff like that. No?
Not that I've seen.
And that's one of the other things that, like, if they had a true tile-based dungeon builder, you could just like remove a tile so that they couldn't advance any further down the dungeon. But that's what Lucy and I talked about this, that it's not a true tile-based dungeon building game. You can procedurally generate the dungeon, and then you can populate it and decorate it, but you don't have like the extent of your full imagination. You can't really bring into the game.
Apparently you can pause it. Chat's telling us that you can.
Yeah, good.
Sweet. What the tile by tile thing? Yeah. So if anybody has ever DM'd before and gotten into that mode where you're like, I just need a map, like right now I just need one because my players have done something and I don't have a map ready for this, or you're just tired and you're not, it's like the game is in 3 hours and you need something. Think a powerful random dungeon generator tool. It's basically what Sword Coast Legends is basically that. You can set the complexity of the dungeon where you have lots of branches and like different paths to take. You can set the size of the dungeon. I believe they said that the largest dungeon can have 10 levels to it. So really big. And you can also, you can set the creature types that spawn in it, the map set, You can change the way it looks, like the fog and the weather inside the map. What else is it that you can?
I love that I can make it rain. I love that.
You can make it rain. You can make it snow. You can make it thunder and lightning.
Right. Well, and I don't know if you've heard or not. California is in the middle of a drought. And I was thinking that like building a campaign off of what we're going through in the real world, like all of us, there's the land has been cursed in a drought, and so you have to find the cause of the curse and break her so that the rain will come back to the land. Just follow me here. And that way you could, whenever the players are out in the outside world, like having control of that brightness and that sunshine and make it like super bright, super sunny would be, it would add to your campaign so that players, when they're running around, they could see that sunshine.
What else was I gonna say?
Okay, we have the DLC. You want to go to DLC, or did you want
to
loop back? Okay. So one of the things that we talked about before the show is the idea of DLC. This is definitely going to be a game where you buy the game. It's going to have some DLC available at launch. Over time, they're going to add modules, and the closest, the most comparable idea that I can think of easily is The Sims, where you buy, the nightlife pack and the I don't know, help me out here, Kyle, has all of the different DLCs that you can buy. And you start with a really simple game, and over time you just add thousands and thousands of props and characters and creatures and zones and stuff like that. And
map packs.
That's where map packs. This is where we see the game. That's they're going to be their business model. I'm okay with that.
It's the business model for real D&D right now.
Exactly.
Right, because we were talking, there's the Forgotten Realms, the box campaign set, and then you have like Moonshade Isles source book, and then you have like the Sword Coast source book and Menzo Baranzan source book. You got all the different source books that add, layers to the game. That's cool. But we, just for the audience and for those here, if each person had to have the DLC, so one DM has to buy it, and the 4 players that are playing it also have to buy that same DLC, would you be okay with that? Or would you rather have it so that if the DM had the DLC, the players had access to it? Just real quick.
I think that the DM should be the only one who needs to have it, because they're the only ones placing the props and using the monsters. Everybody else doesn't get that when they log out of the game. So as long as it's not something that you can earn going through somebody else's content, I don't see.
Yeah, the only thing I could think would throw it off if there was like loot came with those DLC packs that was specific to that DLC that you couldn't give players. So if they made loot randomly generated based on DLC, that'd be kind of cool. Like it gave you something comparable, like if a sword dropped, it would say, here's the sword I picked out, but if they do not have it, drop a comparable sword for them.
Yeah, they said that that's one of the things that the loot, the treasure chests and stuff like that, like the game will control the treasure, not the DM, because they don't want. I mean, come on. When you were 13 playing D&D, I don't know about you, but my group of friends, man, it was you just hook them up with all sorts of, here's your, +5 Vorpal sword,
All right, yeah, everybody gets the Vorpal blade.
I was not like that. I'm pretty sure that I gave somebody a really, really cool sword once, but it might have come with a slight caveat that he got gender bent.
Yeah, I think that Raz brings up a good point about, you have to, and Civilization 5, the one time I tried to play that, it was the same way, is that if a group of people were playing, the DLC that the 5 people had in common were the DLCs that were available. And unfortunately, like, it's like if the group didn't have, if one person in the group didn't have it, then nobody has it, and that sucks.
I didn't like well, I mean, I understand why they did it, obviously, but in The Sims, when you would go onto their website and you could download player-made stuff, if you didn't have the expansion that somebody used an item out of, you couldn't download any of it. So the entire house that they made would have been really, really cool if they had just been like, no, you don't get that item, but I can still download the house. So I really hated that. Basically, I would buy the base game, and for The Sims, it's really hard to keep up with all of their expansions. They put out so many not even just expansions, but like stuff packs that after the game launched and the expansion started coming out, I'm like, nah, I'm not downloading anything off of this anymore.
Hey, Kyla, how much did you spend on The Sims? Was it The Sims 2 or The Sims 3? 2? How much altogether do you think that you spent on DLC?
And did you buy the Katy Perry experience?
I owned every single expansion and every single stuff pack. Every single one.
Is that also including the Katy Perry experience? I'm just curious if that was the
Sims 3.
It was The Sims 3. Did you not own The Sims 3?
No, she's talking Sims 2.
I haven't really played a lot since the third one was released. I did not join the teenage dream.
I actually got the limited edition collector's edition for The Sims 3. I have the little USB in the shape of the plumb bob, and I'm not going to say that I didn't buy a ton of their expansions and pack stuff, because I did, but sometimes I was just like, I don't want this pack stuff, because it just, like, the majority of the items didn't appeal to me, or I didn't really, like, feel like I wanted that, but somebody would use it in this, like, really cool house, and I'm like, well, now I can't download the house, because they have a lamp from a map pack that I don't have. Or an expansion pack, excuse me.
The Sims taught me that IKEA was a real store. I didn't know it was real. I thought it was just a thing. Not kidding.
That's fantastic.
I grew up in a really small town, and the next closest, the closest IKEA was almost at the border of of Washington State to Oregon on the 405 side, and we never went towards the 405 because it's not on our side of the state.
All right. So one of the things, and going back to the DMs and DLC, that they're going to have a DM rating system involved, so that you can leave feedback for the DMs. You know, give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And we were talking.
I think it's actually like you rate them on challenge and like a bunch of other different. Yeah. And storytelling, I think.
And that's the only one that matters.
Well, it should be challenging as well. Like, you don't want to, like, a really cool story, and then you get to the boss fight, and you're like, oh, he died.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be like, oh, I read the DM read The Lord of the Rings to us. Great storytelling, horrible fun. So. But we also would like to be able to be like, hey, there's a DM out there on the East Coast up in Maine. She does these awesome maps and these quests, and I want to download her DLC. But she can upload her campaigns or whatever, and I can download them and I can play them with my group of friends, and I can adjust them on the fly. And would we want to see stuff like that? Do you think that it needs to be part of the rating system? Yes, no?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Sorry,
I still have a tongue.
I was tweeting Sword Coast Legends and asking them about the DLC. I'm trying to get us answers.
Anyway, I know that one of the things that I did growing up is that, like, I guess it was good that my dad was also a gamer, that he would buy a module or whatever, and then I had my own fantasy world that I had created, like drawn the maps and scratched notes and whatever. And he would go out.
Don't even get me started on creating your own worlds in D&D. Oh god.
Right, but I would take the modules that he would buy, right? Like to keep on the borderland, right? Like it Waterdeep isn't a city on the Sword Coast, right? But you can take Waterdeep and you can throw it down in your own customized game world. Your players don't care. And so it's the same sort of thing. Like if somebody else creates a quest type experience and you're like, hey, that's really fun. I like the way that it plays out. I would like my players to go through it, but I want to do this little bitty twist or this other little twist so that it fits better in my ongoing campaign story, and it fits, it fits well, it fits flawlessly, or, well, if I shove it in there, I can make it fit, but I need a game for them to play because the game starts in 3 hours and I don't have anything else to do. Dirty minds.
I know that they said that you can like search for certain DMs and download their stuff, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure that the rating system's probably going to be attached to your name when you upload content. So, I mean, maybe they will have like a DM spotlight, like this person rated really well this week. You should look at their stuff.
I hope it's like Neverwinter in that sense, because in Neverwinter, the best people that created content in that game were on a leaderboard of sorts, where they got people rated the content that they played, and if it was when I played Neverwinter, I ran stuff that was just people just put a bunch of mobs in the room, so you could just kill a bunch of things, and that's all it was. Where I'd like to see story and stuff, and the ones that you can tell which ones are great because the ones with story got higher rated, and people took the time to type things out, and that was more interesting to me. So I'd like to see that with that, where it's like, oh, this one sounds cool from the description you get in there, and this is like one room, and it's like, which could be interesting too if they make it like try to escape the room sort of thing. But if it's just a one room, tons of mobs, then it's not that fun.
I just thought of something. You know how you can't, for right now, build tile by tile? If you found another DM's map that you really liked and wanted to use, you could download it. Like, you could use it and just put your own monsters in.
Yeah, they definitely, like, whenever they can come up with the tile-based dungeon builder, castle builder, city builder, they need to give me those tools.
I think they said, you can't do it yet, but they're listening to their community and what their community wants. And I think that there's going to be enough people who are like, please give us tile by tile, that eventually they'll give us the functionality. But obviously it's not like, quote unquote, just a bit of code. It takes some doing to give somebody something like that. So.
Well, they have to, like, it's not just, I mean, I can also understand, like, they have to, they need to create it so that if you have an open wall and you're like, okay, save it and run my players through it, the game has to be like, it has to know that there's that open wall there and be like, dude, open wall into the nothingness right here. Hello, All right, so.
There was something I was going to say. Let me just look at my notes here.
I
took
just gonna
notes.
say that I'm going to build this because I can.
It's just gonna. All right.
Oh, we're talking about dungeon building. I like the fact that you don't have to just build dungeons. You can also use like overworld maps. So you can have city slums, a graveyard, a cabin in the woods. I'm pretty sure that Neverwinter Nights didn't have that in their DM tools. I feel like it was just dungeons.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I didn't play with it that much, and I was
I
much younger when it came out.
When they were building the quest, one of the quests was to go find a cabin in the woods. And when you went to the cabin in the woods, there were zombies that spawned on top of you and ambushed you. So so it's not just going to be dungeon building and stuff like that. You're going to have like the, oh, here, look, there's a cabin right here in the woods type stuff as well.
Right?
Pardon?
Cabins in the woods can be creepy.
Yes,
That's-
it's not the start of every horror movie. Or...
Only the best ones.
Okay.
Oh, somebody in chat said, "I love a good sassy Sasper." Says, "I love a good ambush." So do they. You can do ambushes. You can set up an empty room, but there's a certain trigger spot, and all of a sudden, monsters spawn. I'll be really interested to see if you can set up non-combative ambush zones where like an NPC will appear and talk to the players. You can probably do it like real-time DMing, but it would be cool to have it automated.
And spawn on top of you, and then it's like, give me all your money, and if you don't give them your money, then they attack. But they
your
don't
GP
attack
or
right
your
away.
HP.
True. All right, so Lucy, we're going to talk a little bit about comparisons. Compare Sword Coast Legends with other games. I think that right now, Sword Coast Legends is in a very unique position compared to other games that are on the market, but it is not the only game that's like this exactly that's out there on the market right now.
It was a couple of years ago. It is called. Now I gotta look for it again. Dungeonland. There we go. Dungeonland, to a degree, was this. The Sword Coast Legends, I think, is taking it to a whole new level, where Dungeonland was a theme park inspired by a bad guy, and heroes came to the theme park. And what I got to do as a DM, because you'd have 3 of your friends play, and I was the DM, and I would just set traps up. So I would set traps and ambushes, and you got cards that you could launch, and then at certain points, if you did things really well, kind of like how you got loot, I got bonus things I could do that can cause havoc to everybody.
And wasn't there like a dungeons master simulator or something like that, where the AI sent heroes into your dungeon and you had to like create your orc spawn room and your, and you went up in level and power.
That is called...
I forget what it's called, but basically
Dungeons. I think it's just called Dungeons.
Oh, it's something that's like Dungeon Keeper or something like that.
That's what it is.
Right. But it missed all of the narration and all of the multiplayer aspect of it. It was simply like you built a dungeon, and then it was more of a tower defense game, but it was kind of like that.
It's exactly what it was.
Now, comparing this to Landmark, Lucy took tons of note. I took a few myself.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go through it really quick. I'm gonna go through my thoughts really quick. For Landmark, Landmark was billed to us as a building. Well, I mean, it was said that it was going to be a fully fledged MMO when it's done. It's still not done yet. They said that when the DMing, GMing, AI storytelling tools come into EverQuest Next, or they're created and finished for EverQuest Next, we will get them in Landmark. We don't have them yet. So that's my biggest concern. Basically, as I go through this, you have to understand that Landmark isn't finished yet. So keep that in mind. It's not finished yet. But basically, for Landmark, you have more control over your creation because you're literally building it voxel by voxel. You can build multi-genre. You don't have to stick to fantasy. Puzzles are more possible via linking and triggering. You can build exactly what you want. You're not limited by randomized dungeons. You can create cool locations for live roleplay, like all kinds of, like anything you can think of: waterfalls, cities, boats, seafaring adventures. Like you can do it all in Landmark. There's a fully destructible world, so all kinds of possibilities there, and it has a 3D environment.
Yeah, the 3D environment definitely one of the things that I pointed out that is an advantage over Landmark, because Sword Coast Legends is definitely, you're stuck in that isometric 2D tilted plane field. I do like the idea that one of the first things, well, I like the idea. I like that Landmark, one of the of course, they make money off of this too. But one of the first things they did was make sure that the station store was integrated into Landmark and the player studio, so that, like we had talked about, like one person creates a dungeon or a building or something like that. The other person can then take that building or whatever and put it into their game world. And one of the things that we're waiting for is that, like, the people that are great builders hook up with the people that are great storytellers and come up with something that is like the truly incredible immersive experience that isn't just related to the storyteller that can't build or the builder that doesn't want to create a story to go along with what they're building.
And that's kind of on my list. Basically, you have to learn lots of different tips and tricks to build. You have to learn your voxels. You have to do your linking and triggering if you want it to be like perfect the way that you're envisioning it. Whereas in Swords Coast Legends, you can use their art style and you can use their maps and their monsters, and it will look the way you're thinking about it looking because they're avatars, and that's what your mind thinks, you know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about that sort of like brain to realization block that I personally have. Like if I can't draw at all. I can think of something in my mind and it looks really cool, but I cannot draw, and it frustrates me so badly because I'm like, but I can see it so clearly in my mind.
That's exactly that was my Landmark experience, and that's why I kept going back into it trying to build, and after 4 attempts at trying to take what I can imagine and build it in Landmark, I'm like, nope, can't do it. I do not have those. My mom can do it. She has that artistic talent built into her. I don't. And then one of the other disadvantages I see with Sword Coast Legends and Landmark is that Landmark, your world space is really limited to the size of your claim. And if you try and go outside of your claim, you could have, like that jackass neighbor who's building, like the giant penis statue. Of course, it's going to get flagged, but until it does, your players are playing, and then there's, giant phallic symbols, out the window. And then in Sword Coast Legends, you're stuck in the Forgotten Realm setting. You don't have the opportunity to play in like, oh, you like Forgotten Realm setting.
No, it was chat. Yes, I love favorites. So kind of like my favorite.
Lucy, you've gone roboto.
Robot.
I
Better?
thought she was laughing.
Okay, sorry.
I thought she was laughing because Oakland Flatus isn't angry. He's a centaur.
Angry.
Remember how I said before that I'm actually an AI inhabiting a robot body?
Oh, that's right. Forgot. Hey guys, somebody reboot the Lucy program. She's glitching again.
I got it.
It's okay. Someone Oakmoon in chat said that I'm a mentor. What is it? Minotaur. That's using a minor. A minor illusion spell.
Yeah. Anyway, what Sword Coast Legend does not allow you to do is create your entirely own unique fantasy world that you control. I'm sure that you have a lot of controls as a DM to be like, ignore that part over there. The king over this place is not who you think it is. It's somebody else. And you can do those sort of things on the flies, because as long as you and your players agree that this is what is going on, that's what's going on type experience.
So where was I? Right. Builds take longer to complete, along with the whole,
my God,
you're
so
building
much longer.
You're building voxel by voxel, so it's kind of hard to build quickly. I mean, yes, you can template and change templates and stuff like that. Yes, you can buy from Player Studio, but if you're a DM and you're trying to visualize a certain thing, or that it's not available on Player Studio, it's gonna take you a while to build. You can't play any cool other races in Landmark. It's just humans. You're limited in your weapons and your abilities because you basically are right now, at least, trapped in the one weapon set with the abilities. So, I mean, you're sort of limited to fantasy, but that's right now, again, currently, because they haven't added any more genre of weapons to Landmark yet. Treasure options are limited. Basically, you don't really have very many rare items in Landmark.
And the DM, the builders don't have any control over that, do they? Yeah, it would be nice. We talked about that before, like a linking and triggering thing, like if they could solve a puzzle or a jumping puzzle or a dungeon puzzle and get to the hidden room at the end, like there would be a chest in there. It's really hard to manage it when you can't like refill the chest. You can't make sure that there's always stuff in the chest type stuff.
Yeah, so coming back to this, Landmark's not finished, but right now, currently, no vendors, no placeable monsters, no ability to play as the monster or alter the monsters, limited prop selection, no way to add flavor text to your props so that you can build a story around that, no quest creation, and no way for your characters to feel like they're leveling up or progressing besides your real-time story, like live RP. So that's my pro and con list for Landmark.
Right. And then I was going to, there is, on Steam, there is an RPG builder. I think that's what it's called, is RPG builder. It is the same sort of experience that Sword Coast Legends offers, where you get full tile control and you build your own tiles and you create quest dialogue. But it is like 2-bit, not 2-bit graphics. 8-bit graphics is where it's limited to. There's a lot of DLC that's available to it, but it looks, because it's not the full graphic experience, it looks rather, I don't know. I can't play those type of games because it looks too amateurish. It's not even a 2D, or it's not even isometric 3D. It is like the original Final Fantasy, where it is like you move your guy over one tile at a time. Let's not all talk at once.
Sorry.
I guess we're all going to sit around at this point, apologize, and not really know what to say.
Well, we're right up against the 1 hour mark. Our final thoughts were going to be to compare it with the Landmark on. We were going to compare Sword Coast Legends with Landmark and with other games. If you guys don't see any other comparisons that can be made, we can turn it over to Q&A.
I have a quick question for Lucy. Out of the Care Bears class.
Can you say that again? Sorry, on my end, your mic cut out.
Are you drinking out of a Care Bears glass?
Maybe.
He's my favorite.
It's the best glass ever.
I did have more things to say about Sword Coast Legends, because it's not all pros on my end there. Obviously, they have cool treasure options and lots of cool monsters, and you can customize and create and control them. I like that you don't have to have live RP to tell the story. You can link like flavor text to objects, and you can have quests that pop up and talk for you, and so you don't have to be like on as a DM all the time, because if anybody has ever DM'd, they know that being on all the time, being available and like engaged and like paying attention to what all your players are doing can be difficult sometimes, especially when they're like squirrel and they run off in all different directions.
See, that's where I would have to be able to make adjustments on the fly, because I think I know my friends well enough along this point that they will. Well, for one thing, they know I'm a bit devious, and so if they think that I am trying to trick them, they'll be like, wait a minute, he's trying to trick us. And then they'll try and figure out what I'm trying to do, and they'll go an entirely different direction, and I had no intention of doing anything like that at that moment. And so, you know, they're all doing their squirrel hyperactive, going off on this other tangent that I didn't plan for. And so I want to be able to like throw stuff at them on the fly and react to what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you can do in Sword Coast Legends is you can change encounters and the dungeon in real time. So if you need to slow your players down, you can lock some stuff, you can throw down some traps, you can kind of give yourself a couple minutes to set up like a new character. Or if you think of something like, oh my god, it would be so cool if I had put that reoccurring villain here, you can do that on the fly. You can add that quickly. And the threat balance for the DM, so that you're not like overwhelming the players and doing a total party kill versus like, and it also tells you when they're doing well and they can handle a bit more, because as a pen and paper DM, it's really hard to to find that line where you're challenging your players, but not completely killing them or frustrating them.
Yeah, all of a sudden the goblins that you ambush them, oh, they only have one hit apiece. Just hit them and they die. Because you threw too many at them and it's been there.
And so the only real cons, also for Sword Coast Legends, one of the big things that it has kind of like a leg up on Landmark is that it has a release date and it's soon.
Next month.
But
it's prettier too.
It can be. It can be prettier. It depends on your art style, and I like Landmark's art. I just can't make the art in it that other people can.
That's basically where I'm at too.
It had me at release date.
And as per the rules, there's a release date. You can hype it. Because around me, no release date equals no hype.
Now.
The only thing that I would say is that puzzle creation is a bit limited, it seems like, in the game. You might be able to like real-time DM it, like there's a door that you can't open, and you have to be like, no, you can't pass through this door. You must answer this riddle before you can pass, or something like that. But your players kind of have to play along with that.
Right, and hopefully they add in the linking and triggering. That Minecraft has linking and triggering with the red bricks, and hopefully that we see it added to Sword Coast Legends at a later time, because that's one of the things about releasing a game and then adding DLC packs later on, is that when you figure, when the code is ready to be pushed to the players, to the customer, and push it then. And be like, now buy this expansion pack now with linking and triggering. Or with more advanced linking and triggering, because right now they have it set up so that, they have some basic ones like an ambush link and like a quest dialogue update link. They have that type of stuff, but they can add further, like you can't go through, this door does not open until this monster is dead. Like, do they have, I haven't seen them show anything like that, but that would be like one of those neat things to have.
And the ability to create tile by tile eventually.
That's number one on the list. Because then you can also go back and look at your old modules and recreate dungeons from your old modules. Right, do we want to? I only saw that there were like 2 questions. Do we want to take those right now?
Sure.
Yes. Please.
In tabletop RPG sessions, does combat inverse the time relationship by making a quick event take a long time versus most of the rest of the gameplay is longer events happening more rapidly? And I think I understand what this question is. One of my frustrations with combat in RPGs is that it takes like a 5-10 minute combat encounter, and that's like 3 hours of gameplay. Because you have rolls and saving throws and hit point loss and oh my god, he died, all this type of stuff. At least in my experience, that especially the role-playing games that have a more complex combat system, it really slows down the game. So I think that that's one of the great things about making it into a computer simulation, is that all of a sudden all those calculations are like done for you on the spot.
Has anybody ever played what's it called? Deadlands? Awesome game. You make your character based on playing cards. It's really cool, but combat takes forever.
Oh.
Is it called Deadlands: The Battle for Slaughter Gulch?
It's a tabletop game.
Maybe that's not it.
It's a pen and paper RPG. There's like Deadlands, Hell on Earth. Those are the 2 expansions I know of, and I think they've come out with like some computer games, but I'm not sure. But they're pen and paper games. They're awesome.
Nope, I know what you're talking about, but I've never played it, and therefore I don't know combat. I know that when I was doing live action role play, if I knew that 2 of my players were going to have a combat encounter, or if there was going to be a encounter, I would take the players like at the beginning of game and be like, okay, we're going to go over here and we're going to go through that entire combat, and then you're going to go role play. And when I tell you now is the time to act out that combat scene, go ahead and act it out. But I want to wrap up all of that combat ahead of time, so that when it actually takes place, it looks like it's happening in real time. Because in a live action role-playing game, the last thing you want people doing is standing around for like 45 minutes waiting for a combat that took 5 minutes to wrap up. So I would always try and, like, if I knew it was happening as a storyteller, and I could be like, okay guys, over here, we're going to do your combat, and then we're going to, when I tell you to act it out, go ahead and act it out.
It's going to be one really, really fierce game of rock, paper, scissors.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be slam, slam, slam. Yeah. Well, I mean, all of those rock, paper, scissors, dice rolling type things, that would all take place ahead of time, so that when it actually came down to acting it out, like if the person, he knocked you into incapacitated and grabbed this thing and then ran off, that's exactly what you see. It's like boom, boom, boom. He punched him a couple of times. He falls over incapacitated. He grabbed the briefcase from the table and then ran off that way. What do you guys do? It's like stuff like that. It's so much better when it happens like that.
I actually like the threat meter better, so that you can gauge how you're doing as a DM, how you're challenging them. Because sometimes combats took a long time, but it depended on like the monster you were using. Like if it was a really intelligent monster or had like a lot of like cool moves that you wanted to use, it would take a lot longer. But that might just be how I used monsters, rather than it might be more of a how I DM'd rather than anything else.
All right. The only other question we had was serious question. What's up with Landmark?
Landmark is an awesome building game. If you like building things and have time to look at all the tutorials that people have put together, it's got a great community. Absolutely great community. And they're willing to help you learn how to build. And there's a lot of really cool templates out there at the swap meets. So if you don't like building or want to like a jump in the right direction, you can go to the swap meets and grab some cool stuff. But it's a building game.
It's a building toy. It's like Legos.
No.
You can add the story in, but it's dependent on you.
For right now.
Right. And don't even ask about EverQuest Next. It is what it is. No, it's probably like a late 2016, maybe 2017 release. That's why we're talking about other games. All right. Well, that about wraps it up. Unless you guys have you want.
Oh, no. Whoa. I got an answer for Sword Coast Legends.
You got an answer?
Yeah, I did. They just tweeted it. Yeah, they just tweeted me. So I asked Sword Coast Legends, if a DM has a DLC and creates a campaign, can a friend run the content they created without owning the DLC? And the answer is an absolute yes from Sword Coast Legends. So
awesome.
The DM can have the DLC, and absolutely, if you don't have the DLC, you can run the content they create with that DLC. So there you go.
But you have, but the DM with the DLC has to DM it.
Yep.
That's fine, because like in my group of gaming friends, when we were teenagers, there would be a source book that was going to come out, and we would either pool our money together, or one of the players would buy it and then turn it over to the DM and be like, that's my book, but I don't want to know all the secrets in it, so you make the campaign, and then when we're done with that part of the campaign or whatever, I get it back. And so it's the same sort of thing with the DLC, right? You buy it for your DM, gift it to your DM, and play the game.
We passed around USB drives with PDFs on them.
Well, I'm not.
Like I told them on numerous occasions that I have them, quite a few of them.
I'm talking about when I was when I was a teenager. Okay, hold on. When I was a teenager, I was the only one among my friends who even had a computer in their house. 2, I was probably one of a handful of people who actually had the internet. So PDFs, what? USB, what? I mean,
Sounds like you favorited my tweet.
I'm just old. So, final thoughts. We kind of got a little. We got really excited because we got an answer to one of the questions we had. Any other final thoughts before we wrap it up this show for this week?
Final thoughts are, I really hope I see these tools in Landmark, but for right now, I'm going to be playing Sword Coast Legends.
You had me at release date, and definitely with the folder. I wish that there was a little bit more detailed information on what I'm getting when I purchase the pre-release or the pre-order, and I wish that there was a little bit more information on what my races would be. I know that I could just probably go look at D&D and be.
Yeah, they said
yes.
It's
5 races, but it didn't say.
No, they said, and then
fifth edition, right?
5th edition.
They actually say I couldn't find any reference to that on the website, and I guess what I'm saying is that if I weren't watching their live streams or getting the information from other friends that are also interested in the game, maybe they're gonna lose people because their website doesn't have like easily accessible that kind of information, because I spent like 40 minutes on their website trying to figure out, well, what exactly is that thing that they say I'm gonna get if I buy this?
Yep.
And that's like really right now the only complaint that I actually have is it is strictly consumer related. But beholders.
Yeah. My final thoughts are that depending on how easy the tools are to use, I might find myself playing more Sword Coast Legends than Warcraft, because like I keep saying, like I'm looking for something new to play. It's true. Vladis?
I just want a game. At this point. Yeah, no content in one, ain't getting the game you want out of another place. What? So everybody wants Fat Choco. I have a Fat Choco. Can't complain. I got one. They kind of deliver on their stuff. They say it comes out. It's actually interesting.
So, again, reminder, next week we'll be talking about Project Gorgon on the last day of their Kickstarter. If you want to see what Project Gorgon is up to before next week's show, go to Kickstarter, look for Project Gorgon. They just released their Bard stretch goal, not goals, stretch goal. So there's a music mechanic that'll be in the game with a bard class that will be available to players.
Yep. They have 7 more days, and they added 2. Was it 1? Yeah, they added 3 new stretch goals. 4. At 45,000, they'll release the Project Gorgon soundtrack. I guess that'll come with the game. 50,000 will get advanced guild features. 55 will completely new and unique animal form. So, if you didn't want to be milked, Sandlin, that's probably it, And 60,000 unlocking the ancient curse of the vampire. So I think Lycan, yeah.
The Lycan and vampire. Play as a vampire. And then 2 weeks from today, we will be talking WildStar as WildStar prepares for its free-to-play launch. It looked like a fun game. I just didn't. Again, it's one of those games that I wish that they had a better play test so that I could determine whether or not I wanted to pay and play. All right,
it was fun.
Who wants to wrap this up and camp us out?
Lucy said she'd do it.
No.
Oh, Lucy.
I feel
last time Tamlin.
I was gonna volunteer to myself to do it. I feel like I have really talked more than my fair share this week. So I will go ahead and camp us out. Okay, camping out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.